Welcome! Week 10 of PPL action is already amongst us. Yes, the season is almost done. We're at the later stages. Now it's time to find out who will win the Alpha and Omega conferences as we get ourselves ready for Week 10. Starting with our prestige matchup of the week, we have the Baby Gas team taking on Squad Underestimated. All right, GENO the Gent here. Ulysses S. Hate is back with us. What you got on this matchup, man? Both of these teams coming off of resounding victories.
Yeah, Squad's holding on. BGT, winning by teeth. I love the victory.
Yeah.
Staying strong. And I think that this is going to be a really challenging matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these teams, like, everybody's on the road. Everybody's a little banged up right now. I think that the big question mark for me is Squad Underestimated going to keep that Patriots coach or not? I think that the Saints are going to get Atlanta.
Yeah.
I just think that there's too much on the line here. I mean, I think Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, what Lamar did last Sunday night,
right.
Impressive.
Right.
I don't know. I think that this is an evenly matched game, but I think that Saints coach is probably an intangible here unless Squad goes out and gets a coach. I don't think that they're in a position to not start a coach. I've got BGT winning this one, 116, Squad 104. Okay.
I'm going to have to go the other way. I think there's enough here for Squad to get the victory. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is on an MVP pace. He's really been the difference for Squad Underestimated this year. I mean, even in, matchups that like the San Francisco game a few weeks back, I mean, this guy's still going to get you, north of 20 plus points. I mean, even in a very bad matchup, that week he got 26. And he got 39 against Tennessee the next week. It doesn't even matter if you have a good run defense. You're not stopping Christian McCaffrey. Looking around at the lineup, I think that Cowboys Vikings game is going to be high scoring. I like Kirk Cousins in a shootout there. Where I think it does hurt Squad is with Adam Thielen being out. They've already announced that he's not playing Sunday. That could be a huge blow, but I'm with you, man. The Cincinnati Ravens game could be a bountiful harvest for Squad Underestimated. He has two primary targets of Lamar Jackson. I expect the Ravens to try to air it out a little bit more this week against the Bengals. And I think Squad's going to reap the benefits there. What I do agree with you on is the Patriots coach situation. There are a few decent options still out there for coach. And if Squad Underestimated decides to go with a coach, I think that they're going to win. I think that they will go with a coach. They may get Jamison Crowder in the lineup against New York Giants. I like that play. I got Squad Underestimated in this one. Now, when I look at the BGT, Matt Ryan's coming back against New Orleans. That should be high scoring. I like Larry Fitzgerald against Tampa Bay's poorest secondary. And Dalvin Cook could possibly offset some of Kirk Cousins' effectiveness. But in the end, I really like Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. And let's not forget Tyler Lockett to possibly save the day on Monday night. I got Squad Underestimated winning this matchup. I think it's going to be a little bit more slow scoring. I got them winning this matchup 118 to 112. Moving on to our next matchup in the PPL, we have the finally surging Appease the Gods taking on this year's juggernaut, the United Players, the Destroyers. All right, two more teams coming off of victories. Ulysses, Appease the Gods has looked impressive the last 2 weeks. And, of course, the United Players have been impressive all season long. What you see in here, man?
Well, the Destroyers, again, keeping pace as, again, my inside track team. Beating teams as soundly as they got the Twins last week,
right?
And they're just getting it from everywhere. I think that it's going to hurt this week with so many Patriots out and are fundamental to this team,
right?
And there's just intangibles like that. Patriots D has been just knockout all season except for last week,
right?
And I just don't think that there's ways to make up those points. Kyler might be able to make up for Tom,
right?
But I think that Appease the Gods is hitting their stride at the right time. Lamar, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, the last few weeks has been looking worthy of that number 2 pick.
Definitely.
Mike Evans, really is just showing like Tampa Bay is just, it's garbage city out there.
Right.
And, everybody's getting fed. So, I mean, I think that's fortunate for a piece of God, but he's got Chris Godwin across the way.
Right.
So I mean, I'm not so sure. I don't think that this is a cakewalk for a piece of God. Went a little cute with the coach. I don't know if they're going to stay with the Bears coach.
Right.
But I think that up and down this week, they have the better players. They've got the better matchups. Again, if the Patriots were playing, I'd be all over the Destroyers here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they've been riding a long win streak. I think this just when it catches up to them, they'll be able to bounce back. They'll be fine. But I've got a piece of gods here winning 132 to 123.
All right, I'm gonna have to agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think ATG is actually gonna widen the gap in that score you got. While I've loved what the United players have done this year, they've been highly impressive. But I think we're getting to the point of the season where adjustments are going to have to be made. You can't just trot out the same guys week in and week out and expect the same results. We're getting into that November, December time, that time that I always tell you is the most important time of the season. And to me, the United players could be slowing down considerably. It's not just the fact that the New England Patriots are on a bye. It's that their schedule is going to get appreciatively harder. They got Philly out of the bye. They got Dallas, Houston, and KC. The next 4 games after the bye. So those aren't games that they're guaranteed to win, even though they've been very dominant this season. Other than that, one thing I will say for the United players is that they get Cooper Kupp back this week. Of course, he's been a dynamic player for them. He's a number 3 receiver in the PPL. So you know that getting a guy like Cooper Kupp back is going to make a huge difference. Obviously, they get Austin Hooper back into the lineup as well. And I really like Kyler Murray's matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that Kyler can replace Tom's production for a week and give him what he needs there. But I'm really concerned with their running back position right now. Kerryon Johnson's out for the season. James White is on a bye. And they haven't gone into free agency yet. They're getting a little late in the game. I'm getting a little worried. On a piece of God's side, I mean, when your starting quarterback scores 43 and your backup got 28 on the bench, I mean, you're rock solid at that position. Lamar and Russell Wilson have been awesome. I mean, they've been awesome to watch. They've been awesome as individual players, and they've been awesome for their teams and for a piece of the gods when they've needed to be. So I love the plays there. Chris Carson, he's got that Niners defense coming up, but you know what? Kenyon Drake made that Niners D look very, very invincible last week. So I like Chris Carson in a power run game on Monday night. David Montgomery, like I said, this kid's got star power. When you get comparisons to Sweetness from Chicago, you're doing good and big things. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, that's probably going to be one of the more interesting parts of this matchup. If the United players can make it close, who Jameis favors could decide this matchup. But I like ATG's matchups way too much all around. I love Hunter Henry, and I love the Buffalo defense against Cleveland. Cleveland is garbage. I got Appease the Gods, possibly in another Leave No Doubt performance, winning this matchup 142 to 116. Moving on to our next matchup, we go into the Alpha Conference for a critical matchup as the Alpha Conference champions, the Mean Machine, hanging on by a thread, take on the Pantheon Cup champions, the Argonauts. All right, man. Both of these teams coming off of, they're both on losing streaks right now. 2 teams that we're used to seeing win a lot just can't get right. They're losing games and they're losing them close. What do you think of this matchup?
I think that this has this is a season-defining matchup. Let's not mince words where we are in the season, where the Argos are, where Mean Machine is. Couldn't afford to. Neither team could really afford to lose it last week. Mean Machine again was on the wrong side of the heartbreaker,
right?
Losing a divisional matchup. The Argos, they weren't happy definitely, but they lost to the number 1 team in Omega.
Right.
So you can kind of lick your wounds from there. I'll be honest though. I think that the Argos are on the cusp of making some moves. I think that I think he's realistic to what the needs of the team are.
Right.
And I think that he knows that only one team is probably going to come out of the Alpha Conference.
Right.
And I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're probably going to see. I mean, some of these pieces got to move. But he's talent rich. Again, this matchup to me comes down to who can be healthy. I think that Alvin Kamara could really have a banger against Atlanta.
Right.
But I just look at. I was really unimpressed with Green Bay last week. I mean, they just kind of sleptwalked through that game. So, I mean, let's see. Normally, Devontae's going to have a big day. I think because Aaron's not going to put out 2 of those in a row.
Right.
I think the Ravens are going to. I mean, that's my shoe-in for the week against Cincinnati. The Bills should beat Cleveland. I think that this is going to be a competitive matchup. But I mean, you just look at the talent. The Argonauts should win this game, and I think that they're going to probably win it comfortably. You look across the way, I'm not convinced with Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
Everybody else is banged up. I mean, he's got Chris Herndon in there right now. This guy hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Argos win this comfortably. I'm going to say 131 to 115.
I'm going to have to agree with you, man. Looking at this matchup, I mean, this isn't one of the better lineups that the Mean Machine has had. I mean, the Mean Machine has been almost as talent-rich as the Argonauts throughout the years, and they've just fallen on hard times. While they still have Odell, Amari, obviously Amari was he just couldn't get him that extra 3 yards that he needed to win Monday night. But you look at Amari, you look at Michael Thomas; those guys are still there. But then it's just a little disjointed this year. Now, I'm with you on Ryan Tannehill. While I think that when you look at the name, he's not all that impressive. Over the last 3 weeks, he's been solid. So I can see where the machine's thinking there. They'll be behind against Kansas City. He'll probably be getting some garbage yards and garbage points there. So I do like that play just from a rational standpoint. I think that the Kamara, Michael Thomas, Drew Brees situation is pretty much where this matchup is going to be decided, like in past years with these two teams. If Drew spreads the ball around and Thomas and Kamara aren't the sole breadwinners, I could spell doom for the Mean Machine. I do like Amari on Sunday night, and I do think that Odell is due for a big game eventually. Buffalo's pass defense, while solid, it's not spectacular. And I think that the Mean Machine could definitely make some noise in this matchup. But when I look at the other side, the Argonauts have finally gotten healthy. The full phalanx is in order this week. Drew Brees is back. Devontae Adams is back. Julio Jones is off of the bye. Josh Jacobs has no injury designation. And George Kittle, I mean, he's a warrior. This guy is playing through a groin injury, and he's looked awesome. Like you said, I like the Baltimore defense. I like the Baltimore head coach. This is the Mean Machine is on complete life support here. I say the Argonauts pull the plug. I got the Argonauts winning this matchup 128 to 114. Moving on to our next matchup in the PPL, we go into our interconference matchup of the week as Patty's Twins takes on Only for the Boss. All right, man. Twins were in a showdown with the United Players. They were undefeated in Omega until last week. While this matchup doesn't carry the same consequence because it's not an Omega game, they really need to get back on track. The Boss, they're at this point they're just playing spoiler. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean the Boss is playing spoiler, but they're playing spoiler without Mahomes. This has been a much different looking team.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes has just impacted the lineup up and down.
Right.
The defense hasn't been as stout. So, yeah, I think that potentially a trap game, but, the Twins should course correct here.
Okay.
Didn't have a good week last week. Aaron struggled, but I think they've got all the right pieces with Eckler, Robert Woods. The one thing that I think, there's nothing you can do about it, but I think that the Seattle 49ers game, I could see that potentially being high scoring, that I think that they could potentially make that a shootout.
Okay.
That, again, would, I think, bode well for the Twins with Tevin Coleman. So I think that the Twins should win this one fairly comfortably.
Okay.
I'm going to say they win it 128 to 101.
All right. I'm going to have to go with you on this one. I totally agree. Patty's Twins needs to get back on track. That loss to the United Players, the Destroyers, was very, very disappointing to their franchise. They were very upset about that loss, and they expected way more from Aaron. They were really upset with him, as well as Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman went from a guy scoring 4 touchdowns to a guy who couldn't hang on to a short pass. It was really startling. Obviously, Austin Eckler and Robert Woods, the LA boys, they got to get back on track. And I like the Zach Pascal pickup. I think Zach Pascal was a player that the Twins should have had in the lineup last week, and I think that he's going to be able to be effective for them this week. They're going with 2 Colts against that Dolphins defense, which isn't a bad play. I love New Orleans' opportunistic defense, especially against Atlanta, who's going to give up turnovers. Now on the Boss's side is Chief. Big Chief in his back, because I expect Patrick Mahomes back in the lineup. That's going to play a big role in this matchup, I believe. I think if Patrick Mahomes comes back, obviously that elevates Tyreek Hill, that elevates Travis Kelce, and in a way it actually elevates the Kansas City defense. I think they get more opportunistic knowing that they have their guy in the lineup. If that happens, I expect this matchup to be close. But I think Patty's Twins has a little bit too much for the Boss. I got Patty's Twins getting by actually in this one, 112 to 108. And moving on to our final matchup of Week 10, we have the Gaff Attack taking on the number 1 team in the PPL, the Skulls, the new guys, man. They sit in the top of the PPL right now. The new guard against the old guard. The Gaff, last year's Omega champion, facing this year's potential Omega champion, the Skulls. What you got, man?
Yeah, really impressive win, franchise win,
right?
I would say, for the Skulls. I mean, but that team's looking more and more like the Argo retirement home right now. I think that this is the week that I'm gonna call it. This is an upset for me. I think that the Gaff gets the Skulls this week. I think that again that Seahawks game at San Francisco is going to turn into a shootout. I'm not sure about that Seahawks D if that's the play I'd go. It's got Emmanuel Sanders on the team.
Right.
So I think he has to make a decision there.
Okay.
I look across the way though. I mean, you look. I mean, the Jets just had tough luck. I mean, nobody's happy necessarily if they're starting Jameis, because I mean he's just getting a lot of garbage.
Right.
That means he's doing dumb things. He's getting sacked. He's losing the football.
Right.
But I mean, I just look at this matchup and I think that this is a winnable game for the Gaff.
Okay.
I think that I'm not necessarily wowed with Deshaun Watson out of the lineup.
Okay.
I think that's really
fair.
with Skulls. I mean, he's just a dynamic playmaker.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jared Goff, he's been okay. I mean, it's serviceable, but I think that again, I can potentially see the Skulls luck just running out here. I think the Gaff has more than enough talent.
Okay.
And I think that the Gaff wins a close one. I'm going to say he gets this one 119 to 117.
All right. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one. I think the Skulls really make a statement in the Omega Conference this week. Not that the Gaff is the team to make a statement against, but this is a game that, they look like they might lose, but I don't think that they will. I actually love the Jared Goff start against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I'm watching Brian Hoyer go out there against the Steelers, throwing bombs, completing passes, having a good game. I don't see why Jared Goff can't do that and more. So I love the Jared Goff start. I love Jared Goff more than I love Jameis. While the Cardinals do have a porous secondary, they have a decent pass rush, and I think if they can get at Jameis a little bit early, even though it's a home game, they can frustrate him. Todd Gurley has just been reduced. I know that Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, that dynamic could decide this matchup, but I don't see the Todd Gurley of old. And I think that the Rams have decided that they're going to be a passing team moving forward. Now, if Todd catches a touchdown pass or two, then that could put the Skulls in trouble, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Le'Veon Bell he is questionable. If he misses this matchup, I'm with you. I think that the Gaff probably should win, but I think Le'Veon's going to tough it out, especially in the Battle of New York. The Jets need some positive publicity, and what better publicity would they get than beating the New York Jets with Le'Veon Bell as the star of that game? Where I think this matchup is really going to turn is at the actual second running back and the first receiver. I'm looking at Mack and Schuster against Sanders and Jones. I like Sanders and Jones way more. I like Aaron Jones against that Carolina defense, and I love Emmanuel Sanders on Monday night. The Seahawks, quietly have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. We just don't think about it because Russ covers up a lot of warts. I'm loving the flex with Devonta Freeman. I think that game's going to be high scoring. He may get a goal line run or two, and he's going to be productive in that game. The coaches are pretty much a wash, although the Colts do have the Dolphins, so the Skulls look like they're in for an easier win than the Packers are. And both teams' defenses, I mean, I don't really like either of these defenses on the road. That being said, I just like the Skulls a little bit more. They've been able to keep momentum. They've been able to find ways to outscore their opponents, and I think that they do it again. I got the Skulls winning this matchup 132 to 118. I think that the Gaff is able to put up some points, but I think that the Skulls is going to surprise a lot of people and really start separating themselves in the PPL. All right, PPLers, that's it for Week 10. May the odds be ever in your favor and good luck. Ulysses S. Hate and GENO the Gent signing off.